Hey guys, happy Friday. It's time for a video over here. A little bit of a, well, I guess you could call this a layout update. We're gonna make a bush. Yeah, very exciting over here, but I mentioned this in the other video last week that I saw an article where there was a little blurb about making bushes and stuff like that. So I figured I'm gonna try to make my own sort of bush over here. Let's pop over to our little workbench right here, which is a complete mess right now. But I'm going to set you down. Well, not yet. I'm not going to set you down. I'm going to show you what I'm using over here. So I've got my my initial tryout bush right here. We'll take a closer look at that. But I'm just using this this stuff here, this little twine. And what I did was, let me put this down. Make sure you can see all this. So what I did was, you know, it kind of comes with a natural curve like this. I just kind of cut 4 pieces of it, just generally about the same length and everything. And let me get them all over here because they went flying all over the place. But excuse my grubby hands, I was cleaning my airbrush right there. I just kind of glued all 4 of these together, sort of, well, sort of like that. And now I guess there's different ways of doing this, trying to get them all glued up. What I did was I punched a hole in a piece of aluminum foil, stuck these kind of through the hole, put a little bit of wood glue on there, and then just kind of played around with them a little bit so that they, you know, kind of curved out from each other. They weren't all just, you know, going in one direction because there's that sort of natural curve right there. So I did that yesterday in prep for today. And that's what I now have is this little thing. Now, once the glue set up this morning, you can kind of see that. You just kind of untangle this a little bit, kind of twirl it around like that, and separate all the little fibers. And when I did that, that's what I got. And then I just kind of cut the piece out of the aluminum foil. You can see there's a little bit of aluminum foil still here, but that's all right because we're going to spray paint this whole thing and then stick it in the ground someplace. So the next thing I'm going to do is, I think, you know, you can kind of play around and make a few, you know, kind of cut these a little bit here, make some short ones, that sort of thing. You can kind of trim it up a little bit, you know, just to get a little bit of variety. I'm not going to go too crazy right there. I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to stick it on my handy little clip right here, and then we're gonna do an initial spray paint on it. So let's see, what am I going to use? Olive drab. That sounds pretty good right there. Nice dark color. Let me see if I got anything better. Yeah, actually I do have some better colors here. Let's see here. Excuse me, it's dusty. I have some ammo Russian brown. Perfect. I'm gonna shake that up and it's all ready to go into my airbrush. Let's see, it's kind of, I'm gonna check the color of it. Let me see if I want to do that. Yeah, that's pretty brown. I want something a little bit more greenish. Here's a green brown. Let's see here. Russian green, there we go. I know they're all Russian here. Russian green ammo. I think that's the color I want. Yeah, that's a little bit better there. Let me give that a good shake. Put some in the airbrush. We'll airbrush this really quick. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is, I've got a little bit of leaf material right here. We're gonna glue that on there. And then we can always touch it up again with a little bit more paint to kind of get it all going together. Let me just put a couple of drops of this in here. Get some paper here. Now hopefully you can all see that. I'm gonna hold it up over here. There we go. Just gonna get a good amount of spray on this thing. Now, a lot of guys had some, well, not a lot, but some people had some comments about Boomer did a thing on bushes, and yeah, he's got great stuff. I don't recall seeing a bush thing there, but you know, there's 10 million ways to do a bush. Let's put it that way. And I'm just trying to, here's one way. I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible. I don't need it super detailed. And for our little demonstration here, I'm actually being really don't care what it looks like. It's more of a demonstration. Here's a technique you can refine and get looking even better. There we go. We're starting to get there. Starting to look a little bit better. All right, that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of gluing here now. I think what I'm going to do, just for the sake of time, is instead of using like a white glue, like you could cover that in white glue and then have you know, this stuff sprinkled on it. I'm just going to use a spray adhesive because it makes it a little bit more faster go of it here. Hopefully this thing isn't all tangled up. Now it isn't. There we go. I'm gonna just spray some up on there. I know it looks like crap, but don't worry. We're gonna spray paint it again afterwards. All right, let me get that opened up. And now I get rid of that and get a fresh piece of tissue paper down here, so I can at least capture all of my my little leaf material here. Let me check the camera there, make sure you can see all that. All right, we'll kind of sprinkle this about a little bit. There we go, not too much. We'll see if we need a little bit more. We can kind of dab it in here a little bit. Not bad so far. All right, I think that's good right there. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to dump the rest of my material back in here. Now this ain't coarse turf. This is just a bucket that I'm using my leafy material in here. Storing it in there. All right, let's take a little bit of a closer look right here. So if this thing will focus, you can see, not too bad, looking like a bush so far. Now another thing I know you could do is, even, because these things are pretty thick, you could do a layer of, say, static grass even on top of it a little bit to give it a little bit more sort of like finer brushes, that sort of thing. I kind of like the way that looks right there. You just got a little bit of that glue still sticking out over there. Once that dries up completely, that'll kind of fade out. And actually, we're gonna give it one more touch of spray paint here. I'm gonna go with something a little bit lighter. Let's see what I got for colors. Yeah, that looks like a nice color. This is a protective green. It's sort of the very bright green that you know, is sort of the anti-corrosion coloring that you might get inside of an airplane or something like that. But we're gonna do a couple of dabs of that. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's like a very light looking green. Let me show you on a piece of paper here. Whoop. Come on, there you go. Close enough. Now it's gonna blow some of this stuff off, but I'm just gonna, this will kind of hide some of that glue too, some of the gluishness there, and sort of give a little bit more contrast here. Not bad, not bad. All right, I'm just gonna spray the rest of this stuff out. There we go. So, pretty good looking little bush right there. We can kind of keep playing with it with different colors, touching it up and stuff like that, but let's go find a hole and just stick it in the layout someplace. You know, it's not the prettiest looking bush, and this is more kind of just, like I said, for an example of what you can use and how you can do it. I think I'm going to stick it over here, someplace right there. I'm actually going to make a hole in the pavement and in the layout. Let me grab a skewer right here. Hopefully you can kind of see that. There we go. Back up a little bit. Yeah, I think right here. I'm gonna make a nice big hole because this thing's, it's not very pretty looking at the base. Jam that sucker in there. There we go. And then, all right, we can you can kind of spread this out still. You know, obviously some of this stuff's like still kind of dropping off there. That's all right. There we go. Not bad for I don't know, 10 minutes of work right there. And again, I'll probably come back on this thing and touch it up a little bit more with some more spray paint. But there we go. We have got a little bush. Now, it's not as pretty and dark as these, but that's just because I use that lighter color. Yeah, I might come back and darken it up a little bit more with the airbrush there. But that's well, that's one method of doing bushes over here. Yeah, those look real nice. Still gotta glue that sucker down. So this, once again, all I'm using is that twine, cutting it up. Where is it? Cutting it up and then just kind of twirling it to separate it, and then gluing it all together. Pretty neat. All right, guys, that's it for now. I know, quick video, but hey, I wanted to do one about the bushes. Benjamin is ready to go. We're gonna go to Lowe's, right? You can get some cookies over there, huh? All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. A little bit of a layout update. I'm gonna go probably make a few more of those and spend a little bit more time on them and make them a little more, you know, prettier, and stick them around the layout some more. Take care.